What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. Over the next 2 days, I'm going to be giving you my top 10 overrated and underrated teams that we're going to see in 2021. And today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 overrated teams in 2021. There's a lot of these every single year. So I've compiled the list of what my opinion are the top 10 overrated teams. Now, these teams necessarily, in my opinion, are not teams that I predict people are talking about and they're going to do bad. No, some of the teams on here are pretty good teams, but they could be getting overhyped or too much attention or something like that, if that makes sense. And then some of the things that people are saying about certain teams on this list just really don't make sense. And I'll explain when I get to those teams. If you guys enjoy, leave a like, hit that subscribe button. You can also ring the notification bell so you know when I upload, and also leave a comment down below. I try to read every single one. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my top 10 overrated teams for the 2021 season. And as of right now, number 10 for me has to be Oregon. You're going to see these stats over there. I'm not going to read through every single one of them. They're just for your enjoyment, pleasure. And Oregon, I put three reasons why maybe they're being overhyped. And everyone's thinking, yay, CJ Verdell is healthy again. Yeah, but is he? That's a big question for Oregon going in. And I think people are overlooking talent gaps due to some big names on defense. Kevon Thibodeau immediately comes to mind. Noah Sewell also comes to mind. But there are gaps on that defense, particularly in the secondary. Defensive backs are going to be a big issue as Oregon lost a butt ton of those in the offseason. And everyone's saying, well, they're due to have a bounce back season. And also, if you see the way they're rising in the polls, I even have them at number 9. I think this team looked really good. But even me, I could be overhyping this team. And I probably think I am. But I still am keeping them at number 9. If you watch that video, go back and watch it. It's my latest video that's uploaded besides this one. Oregon, okay, so they're returning 86% of their overall production from last year, which is pretty good. Definitely in the top half of the nation. And I guess part of that is due to people opting out and whatever. There are big names back for Oregon, agreed. But also that quarterback position is a big deal. That's another reason that maybe they're being overhyped, is people are overlooking that. Oregon is seen to be as a front runner, but don't count out some teams that you're going to see in my underrated list that's coming out tomorrow. So Oregon, in my opinion, is right now the 10th most overrated team in the nation. Number 9 is Notre Dame. We feel like this happens with Notre Dame every year, right? They're only returning 49%. And a lot of people are saying, oh, they're going to do it again. They're going to get back to the playoff. And Notre Dame fans and other college football fans in general are just coming off of that playoff high, is what I like to call it. Notre Dame just made the playoff. And I mean, they had to play Bama. No one was beating Bama last year. 2020 was what it was. And everyone's like, oh, Notre Dame's going to get back. They can get back there. I think they can get back there, but it's not going to be easy. They have a very difficult schedule. And as you see there on one of my reasons as well, the schedule is hard. 4 games in particular that all come within 5 weeks of each other, or 6 weeks. They have a bye week in there as well. That's going to be a hard stretch. Now, they get the majority of their tough games at home or at a neutral site. But I think people are also forgetting that Jack Cohn got hurt. So how healthy is Jack Cohn going to be? Can he replace Ian Book? These are questions that, again, have yet to be seen. And they won't be seen until Notre Dame gets onto the football field. They're number 9, in my opinion. Number 8 is Missouri. And everyone seems to think that Missouri was a surprise last year. Do not get me wrong. But everyone seems to think this year that Missouri is capable of competing in the SEC East. Like they're going to be or the SEC West, I'm sorry. No, they're my bad. In the SEC East, everyone seems to think, oh, this team can do it. This team can be the second best team behind Georgia. I don't see it. In my opinion, they have very little top 25 potential. They're going to be replacing a lot of pieces, such as Larry Roundtree. I do believe he is gone. Now, while this is still a solid team, they play in the SEC, for God's sakes. And when you have teams like Alabama, who I'm pretty sure is on their schedule, Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida, Even maybe Kentucky and Arkansas are better than them this year. I just don't see how this team is going to be able to be a huge surprise, if that makes sense. I don't see a way that this team can build off of what they did last year. Now, they might be another 500 team, but in my opinion, this team is deserving not as nearly as much hype as they're getting. Don't get me wrong, this is still a solid football team, but worthy of top 25? I don't think so. They're number 8. Number 7 is Iowa. Iowa's returning 72% of their production, and what was a terrific defense last year. But I talked about this in my rankings video. Again, you should go watch that to see where I kind of rank teams as of right now. For Iowa, they're losing a lot on both the offensive and defensive lines. And usually if a team is going to struggle, they're going to struggle on the offensive and defensive lines. If a team was good last year, that's where their weak points might be. It's happened with Ohio State a couple times. Alabama's even had this problem. Lots of good programs have had trouble with offensive and defensive lines after coming off a good season, and Iowa's losing a ton. But people keep seeing that they lost their first 2 games and then they won their last 6. Yes, agreed, that is huge. And the Big Ten West Division race is wide open. Wisconsin is probably the front runner, and a lot of people seem to think Iowa is that second. And while they can be, I just maybe don't see it. I mean, there are a lot of good teams in that Big Ten West. That division is probably going to be one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive in college football this year. Spencer Petras is still a developing quarterback. He's still young, still has made some mistakes. He looked okay last year. It was better than I expected. I didn't expect Petras to be anything huge. But I mean, he's definitely decent, but he's losing again offensive linemen, losing weapons at wide receiver, also losing Mekhi Sargent. It's going to hurt Iowa. I just don't know about this team. While they're a top 25 team right now, yes, I don't know how they're going to fare in 2021. Number 6 is Iowa State. A lot of people might be thinking, well, Iowa State can actually compete. They're one of the top teams in returning production. They're up there, 88% returning. Breece Hall had a breakout year last year that I called. So I'll just pat myself on the back there a little bit. But can he do it again? Right? That's the question. Definitely the number 1 running back in my mind coming into the season. Can he do it again? I think he definitely has the potential to. I don't know. Brock Purdy, a lot of people seem to think is due for a bounce back season, but if he plays like he did last year, this Iowa State team might not compete they're going to compete in the Big 12, obviously, but they have to get past Oklahoma. And a lot of people seem to think that Iowa State they have a legitimate shot to make the playoff. They have a shot, but it's a hard shot because the college football playoff seems to be an invitational where the top teams go every year, and Iowa State just sadly is not one of those. Can they make the playoff? Yes. Are they likely to be in the playoff conversation after the season is over? Probably not. A lot of people are giving Iowa State just a little bit too much credit when it comes to playoff. Again, like I said, 4th highest returning production in the nation. But this team, I still have some questions about them. I want to see how they can get onto the field. I want to see how they play, especially after how they started the season last year with that loss to Louisiana. If they start the season off like this again, it could be a long year for Cyclones fans. They're at number 6. Number 5 is UCF. UCF is an interesting team this year because I don't know. I'm very uncertain about UCF. They could be a top 25 caliber team. Yes, absolutely. They do have a new head coach in Gus Malzahn. He's going to come in and change the culture of this UCF team because, of course, Josh Heupel is gone. UCF has some fantastic players. Jalen Robinson out there at wide receiver, Dylan Gabriel out there at quarterback, a couple good defensive players. But highlighting back to that offense, a lot of people seem to think this is one of the best offenses ever. I've read that a couple places this offseason. But again, one of the best offenses comes with a very subpar defense. I mean, you can look at the numbers over here, almost giving up 500 yards a game. I mean, that's just the style that UCF plays, but that's not what Gus Malzahn is about. Gus Malzahn's a very balanced coach. He likes offense and defense. We've seen that in games when he was at Auburn. Couple Iron Bowls, very high scoring. They were able to stay in the game. A couple other games, very low scoring, and they were able to edge that one out. UCF is going to be one of those teams that either is going to disappoint or really surprise everyone. And right now, I just don't see how they can surprise people. Sticking them at number 5. Number 4 is USC. And again, it feels like USC is kind of in the same boat as Texas, who, by the way, just barely missed this list. They would be number 11 because Texas always seems to be overhyped. A lot of people seem to think USC can't disappoint again. And I know they've been disappointing for year after year after year, what have you. They can't do it again, right? Well, it is Clay Helton at the helm, so you never know. And there are lots of underrated teams in the Pac-12 South. We all know what USC can do on offense, right? And like I said in my top 25 video, the defense is going to write the storyline for this season. The defense is good. This team can make playoff noise, and that's also a question. Can they? Again, I just answered that if their defense is good. But going back to that, there are lots of underrated teams in the Pac-12 South, like you're going to see in my video tomorrow. I'm not going to list them off. You can probably imagine what they are, though. And people seem to think USC is going to run away with that division and easily make it to the Pac-12 championship. I wouldn't be so sure about that. There are a lot of tricky teams in the Pac-12 South. USC's got to be careful. And I think even the fans as well have to be careful. USC is coming into this season, in my opinion, with a lot of swagger. They made the Pac-12 championship last year, but there are some tough teams in that division. I just don't see them running away with that division. A good football team, yes. Running away with their division, no. They're number 4. Number 3 is North Carolina. Much of the same situation with USC. People seem to think that they're going to run away with their division in the ACC, but Miami is there. Miami is in their division, and they're going to be competitive, of course, if Derek King is healthy, which seems to be the case. Sam Howell's getting a lot of Heisman hype. And I think people maybe are overlooking their talent loss. Some people are, some people aren't. That's kind of a 50-50. Of course, we all know talent that North Carolina is losing. Michael Carter, along with Javonte Williams as well. Daz Newsome out there at wide receiver. Chaz Surratt at linebacker. They're losing some good pieces. But when it comes to still product, they have a lot of great players, and they were big winners in the transfer portal as well. And again, their running backs are gone, and they seem to be overhyping Ty Chandler, in my opinion. I just talked about the running backs are gone. Ty Chandler is there, and he was kind of a 1A, 1B with Eric Gray at Tennessee, it seemed like, although Eric Gray definitely is the preferred option, in my opinion. Ty Chandler is good, but I don't know if he's as good as Michael Carter, Javonte Williams. And here's what everyone's saying. They have a great shot to make the college football playoff. They're 1 win away. Are they? I mean, you look at their record last year. This team seems to have trouble in close games. In close games where it comes down to the wire, maybe they're down by a possession or they're up by a possession. They just can't get it done, and they have some inexcusable losses. They need to avoid those this year. But just the fact that people seem to think they're going to run away with their division is ridiculous to me. They're at number 3. Number 2 is Texas A&M. A lot of people are expecting too much from Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies. Now, Jimbo's done a fantastic job, agreed. But a lot of people are thinking that Texas A&M, I've heard this before. Oh, they're an easy 12-0. Oh, they're 11-1 at worst. 11-1 at worst. Talked about this in top 25. They're 11-1 at best. They got Alabama on the schedule. They're not going to be where they are, or they're not going to be where they were last year. And a lot of people seem to think that. A lot of people are assuming this Texas A&M team is going to be back towards the top of the rankings, competing for a playoff spot. And while they have a shot to, I don't know that they're going to be able to do that right out of the gate. They have the 7th worst offensive returning production because, of course, Kellen Mond is gone. Lots of other weapons are gone. Do they still have some fantastic players? Yes. Jalen Weidermeyer comes to mind. So does Isaiah Spiller. Agreed. Their offensive line, got to patch a couple holes there as well. But that big one is the quarterback spot, and that's where most of the production is lost. They can replace that. Texas A&M is going to be fine. But at the level they were last year, most likely not. But the number 1 overall overrated team, in my opinion, is Mississippi State. I mean, where do I start with overrating this team? The disaster of a season they had last year. They go out and beat the defending national champion LSU Tigers, who ended up not having so great of a season, but were still a solid team. And then they couldn't. They made teams seem like they made bad teams seem like they were going to make a bowl game. I mean, I think they scored 2 points against Arkansas, a safety. That was it in the air raid attack with Mike Leach. Don't get me wrong, he's going to figure it out. Well, eventually. It's a very different system than what Mississippi State was playing with, and they did not utilize Kylan Hill last year like I feel like they should have, but welcome to Mike Leach. The FBI has Mississippi State at number 8. Number 8? Are you serious? This team isn't even close to the top 25. How does the FBI have them at number 8? Mississippi State is the Wisconsin of this year. Remember, Wisconsin was number 4 and they didn't have that great of a season. Mississippi State's at number 8. Now, the FBI could be right. I just don't see it. A lot of people seem to think they can compete in the SEC West. Spoiler, no, they can't. They can't. They cannot compete in the SEC West. In fact, they're probably going to be fighting to just not be last. This team is getting way too much hype, and in my mind is definitely the number 1 overall overhyped team in the nation. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Is there a team that I missed? You can let me know down in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, ring the bell. Again, leave down some comments. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys tomorrow with my top 10 most underrated teams of the 2021 season. Goodbye.